Welcome to the Dragon Slayer podcast by Frontier Credit Union. I am Steven. With me, as always, is Bailey, and today's guest, Extremiheat. Guys, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
So good to have you
here.
Yeah. I think a good introduction is in order. This is not the first time we've met, clearly, right? So at Frontier Credit Union, we do an event every year that we call the DRGN DEN. It's an entrepreneur competition, right? And so we have little startup businesses come in, they present it, and we award a prize to. And you guys were at our latest DRGN DEN competition, and spoiler alert, you won. You guys were our grand champions, and which was a super, super fun event. You guys did awesome.
Thank you. It was, whole thing was amazing.
Cool. Yeah, we love it. I mean, one of the things that we really care about as an organization is just helping local businesses get to the next level and providing them services that they need to get there. And so it's a really fun thing for us to do too. So, okay, I think people need to know and understand what in the world is Extremiheat.
To get to the basis of Extremiheat, you've got to go back about 20 years just to start with.
I love that.
We're out snowmobiling, and we've got a whole group of us. We're trying to get up to the family cabin. Our dad and Jason here were on one of the older sleds, are up. It's not running right. They're working on the carburetor. They're pushing it across this flat open field. By the time they actually get up there, Jason's got frostbite in his fingers. He's gotten water in his gloves. Dad takes one of your basic hand warmers, and we're worried he's going to have to go to the hospital to get the frostbite treated.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to actually do that?
I didn't actually end up going to the hospital, but
you just broke it off and called it a day. And,
yeah. Well, it ended up cutting our trip short.
Well, sure,
but we went up.
It's a medical emergency after all.
Yeah. And I guess I did it. I'd say it was about a week later because I was having some numbness in my fingers. Went in, but it was a mild case. It wasn't nothing serious at the time, but it could have been.
Sure.
If he wouldn't have reacted quickly with the hand warmers and stuff like that, it could have actually developed
a lot worse. Yeah.
Dad's always got a bandana. He took it off, used that to tie a hand warmer to his wrist, and we were able to get through without having to go to the hospital immediately.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuck with us. A couple of years back, we got trapped in a blizzard. I had to pull off my glove. We're calling 911.
You guys are really good at this, right?
Yes.
Like
lots of practice.
But I had the same problem with the hand warmer. It worked great if I could keep it in my glove, but my hands were wet.
Yeah.
It kept falling out. I got frostbite on my fingertips, and it wasn't until a couple of years later we were able to get to go again. And we're going out to celebrate the end of 2020. It's the first day of 2021. We're riding, we're having a blast. We're flying down the trail, but we're out for maybe 5-10 minutes, and our hands are hurting so bad, it's so cold that we're ready to cut the trip short. That same trick, Dad was able to find a way for us to keep the hand warmers on our wrist. That warmed up our hands. It was heating the blood flow to the tips of our fingers through the arteries in the wrist. And that changed the way we ride. It changed the way we approach winter altogether. We just kind of hemmed and hawed and thought about that idea till later that year. We're out hunting. That's not true. Jason's hunting. I'm fiddling with a hand warmer and a bandana and my shirt. Finally, I was able to use my watch band to hold one to my wrist, and all right, this is working. I'm feeling the effects. I'm able to keep my hand warm. We refined it. We held on to the idea, eventually got in touch with a patent lawyer. We were able to get the patent for it, and we've just worked through, developed, redesigned until we've come up with the design we've got now.
Mm-hmm.
It uses Velcro pockets, poly spandex fabric blend, so it's a little more adjustable. It's got some give and a great heat transference. And just takes your basic hand warmer pouch and let's see.
There you go. Yeah. A little ASMR. And now opening the package.
Ooh,
Like that, right?
that's
Yep.
good.
It's pretty good.
That's really good.
I might have a future in that. Yeah.
We take the hand warmer, we fill it into the pocket here. From there, just strap it to your wrist. And it'll heat the blood as it flows through the radial and ulnar arteries out to the fingertips, and then once more to the body's core.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We use them hunting, fishing, snowmobiling. If we're out working on anything, we're out in the middle of winter. We don't have a good shop. We've got a garage that's full of cars and tools. We're doing a lot of work tucked down in the driveway, hunched over the hood of the truck trying to get something working. You can't wear gloves while you're working with that. If you're fiddling with the itty bitty screws, bolts, nuts, you end up dropping them into the engine bay, and that just sucks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But having those hands open where you can actually reach in, get a hold of it, and not freezing your fingers to a point where you can't feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you get cold, you lose a lot of the fine motor movements
Right.
of your
Totally.
fingertips.
Yeah.
And so by using these, it allows you to keep using those. I mean,
Right.
it's not to stop you from wearing gloves. We
Sure.
still encourage wearing gloves, but it helps if you have to take them off. It'll give you that coverage while you do, because moisture is what kills you
Right.
in the end.
Yeah.
And so keeping that away is always the best, but this will help keep your hands warm while you can do some of that fine motor movement to work on things.
I just think about like fly fishing in November, trying to do that with gloves. I've done it lots of times, trying to use gloves. It's such a pain to try and do anything. Try to tie on a new fly. You're just like, it's irritating.
Yeah.
This fixes a lot of that.
Yeah, I feel like it would have been a game changer for me. I grew up playing softball, and like it's not a winter sport, but like I went to ISU, and you're playing early.
Everything's a winter sport.
Yeah,
right?
it is. Like, March and April, it's freezing, and your hands, you literally can't feel your fingertips. And I was a pitcher, and just thinking about like the ability to actually use your hands when you're that cold would be crazy good. So that's impressive.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what did it for me. I remember at DRGN DEN, I was sitting there and I was listening to you guys explain it, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's kind of interesting. But it changed when I actually put one on. So I don't know, what was the temperature in that room? Like 71 degrees or something like that. And I put one of these things on and I wore it for about 10 minutes and I was sweating. It made me so hot just wearing that thing, sitting there, not doing anything. And at that point, when I could feel like my body temperature change and I was like starting to sweat, I was like, okay, this actually does, this is something, right? It really does something. And all of us were like, all of us were wearing one, and we were just like, oh my gosh, what is? I thought maybe I was getting sick or something. I didn't know what was going on until I realized I had this thing on my wrist still. But yeah, it was really cool, really, really interesting.
Do you find that the up to 11 hours of heat, that's kind of true? Or how often do you usually have to like interchange your like actual hand warmer?
During the day, I've never had to replace one.
That's sweet.
I find you end up taking the bands actually off sometimes because you're getting a little too warm.
You're getting too warm? Yeah, I
and
believe
so
that.
you'll pull them off, like especially if you're out shoveling snow or something.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the stories that was told to us by one of the people we had testing the product for us. He said, I was out shoveling snow, and he's like, I was just sweating. He's like, so I take my coat off, and I'm still sweating. He's like, I can't figure it out. And he's like, I look down, and he's like, oh, these bands. He's like, so he said he took one off, and he's like, it did good for a little while. He's like, but I had to take the other one off for a little bit too. He's like, because I got a little too warm. He's like, I thought we were just working with warming up the hands. He's like, no, it was warming my entire body.
Now, I'm not wishing away summer. However, I'm really excited for winter to try this out.
I do want to try.
Yeah.
I do want to try. Yeah, I'm excited to try it. I know, like, I do a lot of work with like livestock over the winter, and wearing gloves while you do that is such a pain all the time because you're always like doing gates and little, moving little chains and untying and tying knots and things like that. And yeah, this is really exciting for me. I can't wait to use it during the winter.
It's going to be sweet.
It'll be really, really cool. Okay, so you guys are in an interesting stage of your business. It's different than most of our guests. Most of our guests are usually pretty well-established businesses. They've kind of gotten to where they want to get to, and they're sort of working on growing it. And we go back in time a lot of the times and talk about how did they get there. You're right in that back in time spot, but you're living it currently, right? You're kind of in this stage of trying to build it and turn it into something. And so you got the idea, you filed for the patent. How did you even get to like the DRGN DEN competition? What happened in between those two things?
Well, lots of random things in between here and there. We were just looking for different avenues to try to find ways to get it out there to see it how, because I'm coming from a nursing background. He's coming from a medical background and everything also. And we're trying to find a way to develop the business, but neither of us business backgrounds.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we're just kind of reaching out for avenues to try to learn and find. And he ended up finding, well, I'll let you tell that part about it. Go ahead. And
We went to a few expos and events. Rexburg Motorsports, their Winter Expo, Boise, their Winter Expo. We had one party who was interested in licensing it.
Mm-hmm.
And we were riding Cloud 9 on that. We figured it was going to work out. That kind of fell apart at the end and sent us back to the beginning. From there, we reached out to, there's a grant writing agency in Pocatello. We reached out to them. They put us in touch with the Small Business Development Office in Pocatello. We've been working with them, tied to the College of Business. In fact, one of the business classes are the group that helped us settle on the name. They encouraged us to apply for the Boise Entrepreneur Week, and we didn't get into that. There was another entrepreneur event that we put in for. It was more Shark Tank.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted a percentage of the business.
Mm-hmm.
We never heard back on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But talking to our folks about this, mom and dad, and I couldn't tell you which one it was, mom or dad, but they sent us the link for the Dragon Slayer event. And all right, I'll definitely look into it. But I'd forgotten about it. And I'm going through the list. I've got a list on my phone of things that need to be done, things that need to be followed up on. It's like, oh yeah, Dragon Slayer. I actually sent an email because I didn't see an end date of when we could apply by. So I'm sending the email, and then later I find it. Last minute, put it in for the application, and just lucked into that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I think we had, I don't know, about 100 submissions for that. And I think we picked seven, yeah. 7 people to actually be on it. And so, yeah, it was cool. Did you get that email? Did that go to you, or did it go to somebody else?
Yeah, it went to a couple of us on the team, and like we had a ton of interesting applicants. And so it's hard to like narrow it down, but your product was super interesting. And so we were super excited. And when you guys came on, it was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember the event, and you go to the table where everyone had their displays up, and everyone's got a bigger display than us. You've got.
At Frontier Credit Union, we're changing the future of business with our Velocity Money Market account. You can receive unbeatable returns on tiered interest rates. We have rates up to 2.02% APY. Frontier Credit Union puts local businesses first because when you do better, we all do better. Federally insured by the NCUA.
Up, and everyone's got a bigger display than us. You've got video showing, you've got a pile of garments and fabric and business cards, and I'm just, I've got our old packaging in one pair, and there's another pair right with, and crap, I should have brought more business cards. Note to self.
Oh, man. Well, some of it is, some of it's the presentation, but really it came down to, like for the judges, it came down to what did we think was the most compelling product lineup, right? Like that's why you guys ended up winning, is because your product was so compelling. We just really liked it. We thought it was really cool. And actually, so there were 3 judges. There was myself, Dan Thurman, who's the CEO at Frontier, then China Hansen, who's the CEO at Little Mama Shirt Shop, who we've actually had on this podcast before. And when we kind of deliberated as judges, we sat down and we were like, okay, what do we think? And each one of us independently were like, first place is easy, right? It's Extremiheat, right? Like then, so the only argument was over second and third, right? That was the only discussion we really had. And so we knew pretty quickly, we just knew this was a compelling, interesting product, and there wasn't really anything else like that out there. And it solved an interesting need, particularly in our state right here, where we have long, bitter winters. I'm from Texas, and so like it hurts. Like every year during winter, you can ask these two. I'm always like, why do we live here? What are we doing here? This is insane, right? And it's little things like this that allow you to really enjoy the season.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have things like this, it gets difficult to do at times.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Can kids wear these?
We haven't officially branched out into the kids market yet. We've reached out to some of the other competitors from Dragon Slayer. Jade from Little Goslin, she's been a great resource of information in the fabric realm.
Yeah. Brilliant woman.
Yeah. With kids, there's whole different regulations, reporting requirements, testing requirements if you're selling to kids.
Makes sense.
That being said, my daughters love these, and they're always hitting me up. Can I have another pair? Do you have more hand warmers?
That's cool. That's super cool.
Okay, so you end up at the Business Development Center in Pocatello. What happens? You end up applying for DRGN DEN. What else happened in this time frame?
Well, there was a lot when it comes to that development center out of ISU.
Yeah, what was that experience like?
They provided a lot of information that we had no idea with business. Like when we were starting, we were like, oh man, we left that first meeting going, wow, there's a lot that we have to learn, and we have to learn it quick.
Yeah.
Because we're going to try to sell this product. We're going to try to get it out there. And so at first it was overwhelming because there was just so much information of going from anywhere where we're not finding very much to all of a sudden, here you go, here's all
too
this.
much.
Yeah. And it's, whoa.
What parts of that felt daunting to you? What felt like, oh my gosh, we are in over our head on this?
Well, for me, I think I always narrow it down to like the manufacturing aspect, because I did not realize when we started what all the extra went into that, how we're going to get all our materials, our fabric and everything to us. And then once we get it all made, how are we getting it back out there? And they started talking to us about, all that, and then everything that goes on with it, with taxing and everything.
Sure.
And going through all that stuff. And it was just all that. I was like, whoa, I'm coming from nursing. I can deal with a lot of stress.
Right.
That's understandable. This is a whole different type of stress.
Yeah. It's almost like a different language in society that you're trying to figure out. Yeah.
We knew it was there. We just didn't know how deep the details went.
What advice do you have for like somebody starting a business who like figuring out what to do next, like where it's so overwhelming and there's all these pieces, like how do you tackle the next thing?
Research and ask. Ask. Because if you don't ask, you'll never find the answers. If you just, this and this, and ask people, not just Google. Because Google, no matter how much you think it's got the answers, it doesn't have them all. You open up avenues that you're like, oh, I did not know that. And we still, each time we come to a different meeting or something, we're learning.
Yeah.
There's always a learning moment. So
no matter what, there's a notepad and a pen, and we're scribbling down stuff constantly.
One of the things that's been interesting about this podcast, all the great entrepreneurs we've had on here have this level of humility about what they do, where they're just like, they're okay with the idea that they don't know everything, and they're just willing to gather as much information as they possibly can. And they just don't have an ego about like being an expert in anything, which is really interesting. And I think that's one of the separating characteristics, is somebody who's just willing to be humble and learn. And I think it goes a really, really long way.
You have to ask for help. We were afraid to. That's straight up. We were afraid to ask for help. We didn't know what to do. But we didn't want to ask anybody. We're like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Well, you can't figure it out. Didn't know who to ask. And so we just finally just put ourselves out there and started throwing questions out, started sending random emails to people, ISU, whoever we could. Hey, could you help us? Could you give us some sort of insight onto where we would need to go or what we need to do? And we've actually got a lot of positive feedback and a lot more help than we ever thought we were going to get. So
So when you decided like we got to start asking people for help, how did you like figure out who do we even talk to?
That's been a learning process.
You're just asking everybody.
We were just asking everybody. I don't know how many cold calls, whether it comes to fabric, to hand warmers, to just different things so we could test it and everything like that. We just started asking and throwing everything out there and saying, you know what? We don't know. Let's find the answers.
Cold calls and emails to all sorts of different companies of, hey, we've got a new product you might be interested in. There was a lot of, sorry, we don't take outside input. We don't buy ideas from companies outside of our own. It's, well, okay. Any advice? Nothing.
Yeah. But I mean, I think part of the deal is rejection. Right? Like that's just part of any entrepreneur's journey, is a lot of rejection. And people tend to look at them and just say like, oh, I see the success, but they didn't see all the failure to get to it, right? Like all of the difficult moments that finally got them there. We've had, I don't know, 40-ish guests on this podcast, and all their stories are chock full of like disaster and failure. It's really interesting, actually, really, really interesting. And the one thing that they all do to finally get over the hump is to just keep going.
Yeah.
They just don't stop. It's just, it seems like almost stupid, but like that is the defining characteristic of like a really, really good entrepreneur is they just keep going.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it.
You almost have to be pushy.
Yeah, maybe.
It's not probably the best word to use, but
Persistent. How about that? Yeah.
Yeah. But you have to put yourself out there. You have to put your product out there. You have to get it known. You have to spread it, and you just have to keep going.
Has anybody been like, "Hey guys, this is a stupid idea"?
There've been a few.
Yeah, we've had, I'd say, 2 or 3 people.
Really?
Yeah, we'll leave their names.
Yeah, I want their names. I want their addresses. Yeah.
But yeah, we've had a couple that have downplayed it. Oh, we don't know. That we don't know if that's going to work. That
Why don't you just hold the hand warmer?
Yeah, why don't you hold it? It's like, well, we can hold it all day long, but we're trying to get out of putting something in your hand so you can still use your hands.
Right. Yeah.
That's the whole
That
premise
seems
behind
pretty
it.
simple.
Yeah.
Totally. When people say things like that, do you ever have those self-doubts of like, oh, can this work? Like, how do you push through to make sure that like your mental mindset is good?
I guess I become passive aggressive, and I'm like, have you tried it?
Yeah.
Like,
well, maybe you're dumb and smelly,
like,
right?
Why
Yeah.
knock it down if you haven't tried it? Like, try it before you put it down.
Sure.
You ain't never been really cold.
Yeah.
It's come at us from a point of you've tried it, you don't feel like it works for you. That's fine. Then you can be, I'll accept that. But if you're not going to try it, don't hit me with the negativity because I'll hit it back at you.
Yeah.
Well,
Fair.
So when you go to like solicit information and try to learn about what you're doing, what kinds of questions are you asking?
anything that comes to mind, really. But
Yeah.
What have you asked? Like what kinds of things have you tried to dive into with different people?
Recommendations for manufacturing. We've gotten some material requests. A lot of that's been trial and error on our part. And there have been a lot of requests for funding. How do we get funding? How do we get grants, loans, stuff like that? There's not really a lot of resources available until you reach a point where you don't really need the grants.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Anything and everything. Input on from marketing, websites. What sort of information, what's on the back end of business management that you don't find out until you're in the business?
the biggest thing for me, especially kind of the question I always approach with, like when we've talked with the Small Business Development Center, is time. Where do we get the time? How do we manage the time between keeping our regular jobs and doing this? We'd love to both be doing this full time.
Sure.
But we're not in a situation right now where
it doesn't make enough money for you to do that. Yeah.
And so getting answers with that and how to manage it and everything along the way.
What have you heard on that? That's because this is a really interesting, like, transitionary piece that everybody has to go through, which is when can you like ditch your 9-to-5 and actually work on your own business full time? And how do you do that? How do you manage it? What kind of advice have you gotten on that?
We've been told to kind of make sure to slow down a little bit. Don't try to put the cart before the horse.
Okay.
Essentially, that still work, do what you got to until this has become successful and it's actually well known. Then you can start backing off from maybe your job and stuff like that. Work, but do it in a slower manner rather than trying to rush.
Right.
Everybody wants to rush. Let's rush. But you really do got to kind of slow down and just work it through. I mean,
Flip side of that, though, is sometimes there have been a lot of times we can get stuck on a situation and just talk it out till we're talking in circles.
Yeah.
There have been a couple of times where it's just, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Just hit the gas and we'll see what falls.
You know, sometimes it is just like, well, let's just try it.
Yep.
Right. And if it bombs, it bombs. We can move on, but let's just try it. You know, there's something to that too. What do they call it? Analysis paralysis. This is a real problem, right? When you sit there and just turn your wheels about what you think you might do until the moment's passed. Right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Sometimes it is timing, right? I've always said it's like it's the right tool for the right moment. That's kind of what all of these like special entrepreneurs typically, they're prepared, they're ready to go. and they find the right moment and it works. And you have to have both, right? You have to have both elements. But yeah, sometimes people, the moment's there and they're the right tool for it and they shrink from it. They get afraid of it. And that is normal too. Like, it's tough to be like, I invented this and then put it out there for people to say I hate it, right? Yeah. That's tough. It's calling your baby ugly, you know? Yeah. Okay, so what advice would you give to an entrepreneur who's in a similar stage to you, right? Who's just getting going, they've just invented something. You're maybe a step ahead of them. What would you tell them? What does that look like?
Get out there, stay out there, hit up expos, look for events like Dragon Slayer. I mean, we got shut down at 2 events before we found this one. We went to a couple of different expos. We've got a couple more expos lined up in the future that we want to go to. We're working up to a point where we can sell at them. If you're not out there, you're not talking, you're not being heard. Most importantly, you're not listening, you're not getting the feedback.
Yeah, put yourself out there. Put your product out there. Let people know what's going on. And, you know, that's the best advice. Just put yourself out there. Keep trying. Don't give up. Just because you got a couple naysayers, don't let them dominate. Just keep going.
It's good advice. What's the path forward? What are you looking at in front of you? What's on the horizon?
Well,
here?
right now we're in talks with the hand warming company, actually. We had a meeting with them, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
We're waiting for them to get back with us. So
what is a hand warming company? Is that like the
company
little,
that makes the hand warmer
the
packets
actual little
themselves?
packets?
Yeah.
Cool.
And we don't want to divulge too much just yet because we don't necessarily know where we're going.
We can
with
cut
it.
out anything we need to, right?
But if we can do that, we'll go ahead.
At Frontier Credit Union, we offer startup loans for emerging businesses to help support you in the early stages of growth. This could be for inventory, equipment, or other operating expenses. Almost all businesses qualify. Get started today by visiting our site, frontiercreditunion.com, federally insured by the NCUA.
Well, if we can do that, we'll go ahead. We actually,
That's what I'm talking about.
we talked with, and
Okay.
so there's talks potentially of them actually taking over the manufacturing of
That's
it
very
because they've got access to foreign markets.
Sure.
And so we haven't agreed to anything. They were looking up some pricing to see what they could get it at their cost and everything. So we did talk to them about that, but
Interesting. So would you license it to?
that's kind of what the talk they were getting at, but
Yeah.
we're kind of hesitant because it is our baby.
Yeah.
And we want to stay a part of it. And so it's hard to say, oh yeah, here you go, take it over. And then, yes, we'd still be benefiting from it, but
You'd still own it technically, right?
yeah, at the same time, it's like we no longer have all the say. And it's not about all the say, but about having some of it. And if we license it out like that, it's a little tougher.
Yeah. I can't remember who told me this years ago. I think this was in college, actually. I was in an entrepreneurship class, and we had this, if I remember this right, we had this guest speaker, and I've forgotten his name now, but anyway, he had started several companies and sold several companies and super, super successful. And one of the things that he talked about is like protecting your intellectual property. And it was one of the topics because he had invented different things and had licensed them and sold the patents and done all kinds of different things with it. And he told us this one story about a product that he had invented, and then it basically got ripped off, right? Somebody stole the idea and ran with it and actually beat him to market, got there first, and he was real sour about it. He realized that he had a couple of choices. He could go sue them and try and protect his IP that way, or he could move on and work on something different. And the lesson that he was teaching us in that, he's like, look, if it's your only idea, fight for it, right? Like, you take them to the mat, do what you got to do to make sure you maintain control of it. And he's like, but if you've got other ideas, let it go, move on, right? And that can be okay too. And you have to decide which one it is, right? That obviously determines what your course is. And there are a lot of people who make a very nice living inventing stuff and then licensing it out to other people, right? Or selling patents and things like that. I think I've told the story before, but I have a friend, and she invented, like when you go to like a truck stop bathroom, it's always an interesting way to start a story, right? You go to like a truck stop bathroom and they have like the toilet seat covers there, like the little paper. So she invented a different version of those that apparently, and I've never seen one. In fact, they've never been manufactured, but is far superior to the one that you get at those bathrooms. And she was going to take it to market and do all this stuff with it. And 3M, who manufactures those, did not want that product to hit the market. So they actually bought the patent from her for like $2 million or something. And so she never made a single one. They just didn't want it to hit the market. And so she sold the patent and having a good old time now,
Dang it, 3M. We're all suffering now because of them.
Well, I think you'd be shocked at how much of that actually happens, right?
Yeah.
Like there's an incumbent product or something, and they don't want something else out there that's far superior, so they buy the patent and bury it, and it never goes anywhere at all, right? Now, I'm not suggesting you do anything in particular here, but it's an interesting way to think about it.
I'm not going to lie, that'd be cool. There've been a lot of times we've sat down and we've had those great ideas, and man, that could be the $1 million one.
Sure.
And if this takes off, we've got a couple more, and we would like to develop further, but we're kind of focus on the main quest, worry about the side quests later. Mm-hmm. We've got different versions of our bands, different applications, and they're all covered under the patent. But this is kind of the easiest one for us to focus and bring to market.
Yeah. There's some really interesting, I guess they're companies, but they're like trolls, right? And all they do is they go out and acquire intellectual property and then sue people for it. And that's their whole business model. Like that's all they do.
It's wild.
It's terrible, actually.
Yeah.
It's really lame, but there are companies out there that just, they'll buy like a tiny little company or a struggling company just for the IP, lay everybody off, I think go sue everybody else that's doing anything remotely like it to try it. And that's how they make money.
It's like scammers. They're like really good at, they're like smart people. So like use your skill in something that's actually good for the world.
Yeah, sure. So what else? We've gotten off on a sidetrack here, right? But what else? What else is on the horizon for you guys?
Every year, our family, folks live right by the fairgrounds for the Eastern Iowa State Fair.
Yeah.
Every year since I was 9 years old, we would be parking cars there. This year, we're actually going to set up a booth to sell some Extremiheat bands in the parking lot. We've got a small production run, limited number, but hopefully that'll be enough to...
It's exciting.
That's sweet.
It's very exciting.
Kickstart sales, advertise them, do more pre-sales as we work on getting more manufactured. And we'll be out there. It's on Lemon Street. We'll be the first person people see when they get there.
Cool.
Last one they see when they leave.
Very cool.
And great place to park your car.
Yeah. Hey, how about that? Yeah.
It's right by the agricultural gate. And we've been doing it so long. There's about half-acre worth of property that we park cars on. So
That's sweet.
yeah.
Cool. Well, that's exciting. That'll be your first, like, hey, we're selling it kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
We've added sales to the website. We've got a couple hits there.
Cool.
And we're just working on getting it out further and
Very nice.
spreading it.
Very nice. What do you want people to know about Extremiheat and what you do?
We want to be able to get out there and keep people warm. At the end of the day, we've been that poor schmuck who's shoveling snow, working under the car. We've froze ourselves so many times. We understand it works. It's not gonna, maybe it won't save your life, but maybe it'll buy you 20
Maybe it will,
minutes.
though, right?
Yeah.
Maybe to buy you
It'll
enough
get
time.
fine motor control. You're out in the woods, enough to start a fire, light a lighter. Maybe it'll get you that extra 20 minutes so you can get somewhere safe, somewhere sheltered, get the car up and running, get out of those dire circumstances. 20 minutes isn't a lot, but 20 minutes can make that big difference.
Sure. Yeah.
Just try our product, see what you think about it, and let us know. We think it works. We think it'll benefit most people, especially in our climate and what we deal with on a regular basis during the winter. And you'll be able to use your hands again without having to worry about bulky gloves all the time. You can still wear your gloves, or you can go down to a thinner pair of gloves so you can still keep working.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
We tend to go to a lot of snowmobile stuff. That's our main topic, but we've had a lot of snowmobiles that don't have the built-in hand warmers or they're broken.
Yeah. Most likely they're broken. Yeah.
But it makes a difference there. We don't have to use them now. We sometimes have them on, but
it's really cool. Because I think mine are broken on mine. So that, would be a good thing to try. But
and there's a lot of situations where you don't have those hand warmers or if the snowmobile breaks down and you're walking back to the truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and if you're familiar with snow machining, you know that you cannot hold onto the handlebars with a hand warmer in your hands.
Sure.
And so this allows you to actually grip the handlebars. So when you go flying off the side of the hill, you can keep a hold of those handlebars and not.
This might be a stupid question, actually, but can you put this on your ankle and keep your toes warm?
Yes.
I love that idea.
Yes.
Wow.
Because I can't sleep with cold feet. It'll keep me up all night long if I have cold feet.
Yeah, no matter how thick of a pair of socks I wear in the winter, my feet are always freezing, and so that's a game changer.
You put it on the front, huh?
You'd put it on the inside.
Oh, on the inside? Is that where the artery would be? That
just turn it off to the side a little bit there. So
yeah.
If you try to place it on the front, it won't quite be as comfortable as off to the side just a little bit. So
I'm ready for a snow day.
Yeah, let's do it. It is funny. Ever since I've seen these, I'm like, I can't wait till it gets freezing. I've never said that before. Yeah. No. Bailey, anything else?
What's your message to the world?
Go out, have fun in the cold, and get a better hand on winter.
Yeah, come back to the cold. That's what it is. Come out and enjoy it. Don't just be afraid of it. Don't stay indoors now. We've got something that we feel will help you get back out there. So enjoy winters, not just summers.
Yeah.
You're going to have the same amount of winter days, whether you find something to enjoy it or not. Find a way to enjoy it. Get out there. Don't be cooped up. For the nature lovers that are shut in for 6 months out of the year, this is a way to get out there and enjoy it again.
Yeah, it's great. Do you have like a pre-sale like event or anything like that you're doing? I know you're doing the state fair. Anything else like that? The grand release or anything like that?
Nothing particular. We are offering the first 100 pairs sold online will get free shipping.
Sweet.
Got a coupon code set up there.
Cool. What is it? What do you got?
Debut, and it's on Extrmiheat.com. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Extrmiheat. And for companies that are interested in their own personalized, like the Dragon Slayer
we've
pair
got one
here.
right here. Yeah, that you can see.
It's sweet.
Yeah, that is cool.
We are currently doing our own custom fabric, so we can add logos, we can add brands. Anyone who's interested in anything like that, we can make out, depending on the order size, we can do personalized stuff like that.
Great. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here. We sure appreciate it. And obviously, we wish you the very best of luck. It's a really cool product, and we're excited to watch and see what happens here. And thank you for joining us on the Dragon Slayer podcast by Frontier Credit Union. We'll see you next time.
Woo!
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's awesome.